Well, welcome everyone to this, our first webinar in the music business series, um, sponsored by SAMRA and the SAMRA Foundation. It's really wonderful to be here, and I'm sure this is going to be a really fantastic time of learning and conversation, discussion. We start today with the great David Lephoto, who I've known for a few years. We studied together at the University of the Witwatersrand. And it's wonderful to have him here as speaker and board member of New Music SA. David was born and bred in Siyathemba, Mpumalanga, currently in Soweto. He holds a Bachelor of Music degree from Wits University and currently lecturing at music business at Central Johannesburg TVET College. He is the founder and CEO of Soundbag Entertainment, a music promotions company based in Johannesburg. He also works as a private consultant in the recording industry with a client base consisting of independent artists, composers, and record companies. He previously worked as an artist and manager for a Johannesburg-based African-Indigenous music band with which he went on tour to Mexico. In 2017, he presented an academic music business research paper titled Digital Music in South Africa, Factors Inhibiting or Contributing to the Adoption of Digital Music Services, at the 8th Vienna Music Business Research Days in Austria. So it sounds like he is very, very well prepared to be able to do this. And hello, Dave. It's wonderful to have you. Thank you for joining us. And a quick shout out to Ignacio Priego on the other side of the New Music SA management staff team, and to all the listeners and viewers. It's wonderful to have you. I'll hand over to you, Dave.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Cameron. That was a wonderful introduction. Yes, so I'm going to start with the first slide of my presentation. I've prepared a PowerPoint presentation here to guide us through this webinar. So we'll just discuss everything, but basically each and every slide will contain basic information that we can just springboard from in order to discuss all the issues that we've prepared for today. So today is the beginning of our music business workshop series that's going to run for the rest of August, and next week, Thursday, we're going to have another music business webinar. And this series is titled Digital Indaba 2021 Connectedness. Yes, and on this slide, we have our generous sponsors, the Rupert Foundation, SAMRO Foundation, the National Arts Council, Nedbank, and the Arts and Culture Trust. Now, so these are the organizations that have made it possible for us to be able to prepare this for all of us. And we are grateful for the assistance that we've received from them so far. Yes. The title of this presentation is called The ABCs of the Music Business. Basically, these are the fundamentals, the basics of the music business. And this is the information that I think each and every person who wants to go into the music industry needs to have if they want to flourish, only if they want to be in the music business. Everyone. We all know that the music industry is divided into 3 sectors, and that is the publishing sector, the recording sector, and the performance sector. And for any person who wants to go into any of those sectors or to do business across all those 3 sectors, this is the information that everybody needs to have, the ABCs, the basics, the fundamentals, the most important information ever. If you don't have this information, which we're going to talk about today, you're going to have a problem in the industry. You're either going to be ripped off, or you're going to fight with people. you're going to rip other people off. So the information today is very important, and basically it's the basis for each and every information that you need to have. And this is the information that you take into negotiation rooms when you are doing business with people in the Cape. And the presentation is presented by me, David Lephoto. As Cameron said, I'm currently lecturing at Central Johannesburg College. I'm teaching music business, but I've done many things in the music industry. But perhaps for today's webinar, I'll just mention a few. I'm a music promoter based in Johannesburg. I run my own company, as Cameron said, Soundbag Entertainment. And I've presented about 2 events so far in some of the big theaters in Johannesburg. And I think we will have another event next year. Yeah, and then I'm also the board member for this organization that made it possible for us to have this webinar today. So New Music SA basically is an organization that that raises funds for composers and for artists who want to present their projects in the music industry, mostly based here in Johannesburg. And we also have projects that we put on a regular basis here in Johannesburg and in other places such as Cape Town. Now, on this slide, I have a quote from Nat King Cole, and it says, "I am in the music business for one purpose only, and that is to make money." And I think this is the basis for every person who goes into the music industry. This is the reason why everybody wants to go into the music business, to make money. If you're going into the music business and your intention is not to make money, then you're going to be in trouble. I normally come across many people, when you ask them why are they in the music business, they're all going to tell you that it's because music is my passion, music is my passion. Yes, music is your passion, but what about music business? Why are you doing music business? You're doing music business because the purpose is to make money. So we're going to learn how to make money in the music business, how to hustle in order to make money in the music business. And I love this quote. Now we all know who Nat King Cole was. Nat King Cole was a jazz musician, a jazz pianist from the US way back in the 1950s and the 1960s. And this is a brilliant quote from him. Now, let's get started. What is music business? In order to learn how to make money in the music business, first we have to break down this term, music business. What is music business? First and foremost, we all know what music is. Music is an art form consisting of melody, rhythm, and harmony. And business is an economic activity wherein goods and services are exchanged, and sometimes ideas. Music, goods, services, and ideas are exchanged for money. That is a business. Now, the term on its own, music business, what is it? I have a very simple definition of what music business is. Music business is the use of music to make money. So let's see how do you use music to make money. You use music to make money by having ideas to sell. What type of ideas these are? Now we can see in our photo there in the little animation, you have someone carrying a light bulb that represents an idea that you can sell, and you have a businessman on the other side, or somebody that is carrying a stack of money in order to exchange money with ideas. What does that mean? Because we are in the music business. So what does it mean when we say we are selling ideas in the music business? What are these ideas that we're going to sell? So let's see. These are original music ideas, and the technical term in the music industry for these original ideas is compositions. What are these compositions? These compositions are divided into 3 aspects: melodies, lyrics, and arrangements. And you can see in this picture here, you can see in this picture here, you have a composer. You can see that here on the sides, we have these musical little signs, your crotchets, your quavers, and your semi-quavers. These basically represents all those ideas that are generated by composers, that are created by composers. We have melodies, we have lyrics, and we have arrangements. These are the ideas that we're referring to. This is what you sell. This is what you go into meetings to represent and to negotiate for your best interest. And these are the original music ideas. So in order to make money, you have to make sure that your idea is original. If it is not original, it means that it belongs to somebody else and it's been existing for a long time. And for that reason, you cannot make money from something that you did not create, which is an idea that is not original. Now, so now let's see. Now, how do you go about selling these music ideas in the music industry? The first thing that you do is to license your musical ideas to the users. And later on in this slide, in this presentation, we're going to see who are the users of these musical ideas. So you have to license your musical ideas in order to make money. And those people that you're going to license your music ideas to, they have to pay you. They have to pay you because they want to use your ideas to make money for themselves. And for that reason, they have to pay you. So there is two ways through which you can make money from your ideas. And the first one is to license your ideas to the users of your music ideas. And the second one is to perhaps transfer ownership, that is to sell your music idea or transfer your ownership of your music idea to someone so that you do not benefit from that idea in the future. And now in this idea, you can see that we have a composer on that is carrying two ideas, and then we can see hands here on the sides of people who want to buy that particular idea so that they can use it for themselves. So these are the only two ways through which you can make money from your music ideas. The first one is either you license it, and if you are licensing your music idea, it means that you are giving someone the permission, you're granting them the permission to use your music idea for a limited period of time for that matter. And in the case of the transfer of ownership of your music idea, it means that you're not going to make money in the future after the transfer has been done. You're not going to make money from your idea in the future going forward, which means the person that you would have sold your music idea to permanently is the one who's going to benefit from that particular idea. Now, who are these users of these music ideas? So this is your client base. Let's see, and we have a list of these users of your music ideas. So you have record companies. Record companies, they're in the business of selling records. But before they can make records, they need to have music that can be performed in the studio. And that performance in the studio, it gets recorded. Now, that recording is the one that gets sold to the public out there. Now, record companies are not in the business of selling music. Record companies are in the business of selling records. Now, in order for them to make a record, they need music that they can actually record so that they can sell those records. So you sell your music ideas to record companies, either by licensing it to them or maybe by selling it to them permanently. And other users as well of your music ideas are broadcasting companies. These will be your radio stations. These will be your some streaming services, especially your streaming services such as YouTube, such as Vivo as well. They want your music because that's how they make money from. So these will be your radio stations and TV stations as well. You also have film companies because film companies, they're in the business of making movies. So most movies need music, obviously, to augment the dialogue in the movie. So you'll have to sell your music. And in most cases, when it comes to film companies, basically what they do, if they do not take your pre-existing music, they will come to you to ask you to actually compose your music from scratch for a particular movie that they will be working on, or maybe any company that is in the business of making visuals or films in the music industry. And in this case, you sell it to them permanently sometimes. And then you also have advertising agencies. Advertising companies are in the business of selling whatever products. Could be a car, it could be a house, and they want to make adverts or commercials or jingles. So they need music for that. So these are some of the users of your music ideas. You have gaming companies, they make games for children to play, and games need music as well. Streaming services. You also have printing companies. Now, printing companies are in the business of selling score sheets. So you license your music ideas to them, and they pay you. And they pay you for using your music so that they can actually put it in a piece of paper and sell it. You have events companies. So events companies, they also need your music because they organize events for people to come and watch musicians to perform. Performing what? Your music ideas. And for that, they have to pay you as well. So you have these array of users of music ideas to make money from. You have venues. If you're running a club, if you're running a pub, a restaurant, or any type of a venue where people come, the public would come, to support you, maybe to buy food or anything like that, and you play music. Therefore, you make money from the owners of these venues because they are playing music for the public and they have to pay you. People who are owning jukeboxes, when you go to clubs, taverns, and pubs, and you find a jukebox, the jukebox entrepreneur will have to pay you. And also artists in particular, because artists need music to perform. So they rely on your music ideas if you are a composer. So they rely on your music ideas in order for them to manifest their skills, their talent, their artistry. So these are all the different users of your music ideas. And in fact, one idea only can be sold to all of these different users of your music ideas, and you can make money from all these different areas, from all these different areas in the music industry. So, so what do you need? So what do I need in order to sell music ideas? You need to have copyright. You need to have copyright. And what is copyright? Copyright, the legal term for copyright, it means that it's an exclusive legal right to exploit music ideas. Now, when you have copyright for your idea, it means that no one can use your idea without your permission. If they are using your ideas, your music ideas, could be your melodies, it could be your lyrics, it could be your arrangements, and sometimes your record and your beat. If people are going to use your music ideas without permission, it means that they are infringing your copyright. It means that they're using it without your permission, and therefore you can sue them, because no one is allowed to use your idea to make money for themselves without your permission. And now this is what you need to have. And if you have copyright, therefore you can go into the music business, can go into the industry and make money from those ideas. And you can prevent everybody else from using your ideas. Now in that picture, you can see that you have an artist, a vocalist whose mouth is gagged. They can't do anything, even if they want to use your music to make money for themselves or to record it, they can't do anything at all, because copyright, it gives you the protection that only you yourself alone should be the one who benefits, who monetizes your music ideas. So how do you go about getting copyright? The first thing you need to do is to record your music ideas. If you record it in any particular way, perhaps you go into the studio, you record your music idea, you have copyright instantly. Or you need to write it down in a piece of paper. If you do any of these two things, then you will have copyright instantly. You don't have to go anywhere to register your idea, your music idea. You don't have to go to any organization or to the Intellectual Property Office in Pretoria to register your ideas. If you have these, you are done. You are done. I normally come across many artists and composers who say, well, I need to go to SAMRO to actually register my composition so that it can be protected. That's not the reason why you should be going to SAMRO. SAMRO will never give you protection. SAMRO does something else, which we're going to discuss later. So if your idea only exists in the mind and you only talk about it to your friends or anywhere else, you know what I mean? But you don't make sure that you put it in a tangible form, you know, like such as recording it, or maybe writing it down, you know, in a piece of paper, like in a score sheet, then you're not going to get protection. These are the only two available ways to get copyright in the music industry. Now, what must I do after getting copyright for my music ideas? So what should you do after doing that? You then start to sell your ideas to the users of music ideas. And remember those two ways that are available for selling your music ideas. Either you license it, it means that you give people permission to use your music idea and you benefit from that, or you transfer ownership of your music ideas to the users of your music ideas. Now, I'm going to come back to this again. I know we discussed it. I mentioned these in 4 slides back. So you have record companies here. These are the record companies, like I said before. These are the users of your music ideas. They need your music ideas to make records and to make music videos. So now these are two different aspects altogether. And when you go into negotiations with record companies, you discuss these issues separately. So when you're giving record companies the license to use your music, basically, you ask them, this is for what purpose? They tell you that, well, we want to make records. We've signed an artist and we want to record your music idea. So you ask them, for what particular purpose? How are you going to record it? If they only say that they only want to make records, that is phono records or sound recordings, then they don't have the permission to make music videos, because this is a different format altogether. If they want to make if they want to use your music idea in two ways, that is to make a record or to make a music video, it simply means that they have to pay more. They will have to pay more for that. So I've seen some contracts, because I also work in the music industry as a private consultant, helping artists, especially young independent artists, and some record companies. You know, I get invited to meetings to negotiate on behalf of some people, certain people, and I see most of recording contracts do not speak to the aspect of the use of your music idea to make a music video, and the record company is not allowed to use your music to make a music video. To make a music video if they did not ask for that. Again, you have broadcasting companies. These are radio stations. These are TV channels. So these companies, they will also pay you for the use of your music. Normally, these radio stations, you will have a record company submitting records for airplay to radio stations. You know, you're not involved in all of those things, but because it's your music idea that is going to be broadcast to the public, for that purpose alone, you'll have to be paid, because broadcasting companies benefit from your music idea as well. Record companies benefit from your music idea as well. And for that purpose, they'll have to pay you. Any person who's going to use your music, or any company who's going to use your music to make money for themselves, they'll have to pay you for that. Unless, of course, you would have transferred the ownership of your music idea permanently to them. For music videos, if they are broadcast on TV, you also get money from that all the time. Film companies, if they want to take your music and synchronize it with movies for series projects or documentaries, they'll have to pay you. You'll have to give them synchronization license to use your music in films, and they'll have to pay you. And normally film companies, they pay you a once-off fee for this. Then you have advertising agencies for radio ads and TV ads. They will have to pay you if they're going to use your music or ask you to compose original music for the type of adverts that they want to fly. Then you also have gaming companies who make video games for young kids, and sometimes adults. Well, I'm not into video games, and sometimes adults as well are into video games. So a gaming company would come to you, they will give you a contract, they want to use your music, you know what I mean? And there's many aspects that you'll have to negotiate here. You ask them, is this for a single use, or they're going to use it multiple times, you know what I mean? If they make different versions of a particular game and so forth. So when you are negotiating with video gaming companies, there's lots of aspects that you have to look at there, because if they're going to use your music idea multiple times, then they'll have to pay you more compared to if they want to use it only for once. And then you also have streaming services. The streaming services will be your Spotify, will be your Vivo for music videos, will be for, well, we don't have Vivo in South Africa. So Vivo, it's normally, if you want to access a Vivo music videos that are on Vivo, you'll access them through YouTube. So YouTube as well, these streaming services, they'll have to pay you for the use every time when your music is accessed or it's streamed from these streaming services. You have printing companies. You have two different types of printing companies: physical companies, companies that are printing physical music, and those that are printing online. Basically, they have a website and they upload your music on the website, and for that purpose, you make money from that. And then you have events companies. These are promoters, like I've said before. They're putting live performance events, and then they get the audience to come in, and then they'll have to pay you, because then the musicians will be performing on stage, will be performing your music for the public. Then you have different types of venues as well. These venues are actually music venues. I like to think that they are music venues. You have theaters, you have clubs, you have pubs, you have restaurants, any venue that is going to play the music while patrons are busy in that particular venue. The owner of that particular venue, the company that is owning that particular venue, they'll have to pay you for using your music in their venue, for using your music ideas in their venue. You have jukebox companies, and you also have artists as well, because artists, when you are an artist, you're not supposed to be a composer because you are an artist. But if you want to compose, you are allowed to compose, and you can compose as well because you know how to manifest your compositions. That is by performing them. So you have musicians, you have DJs. If you're a DJ, you rely most of the times on other people to compose for you, so that you can make records and actually kickstart your DJ career. Now, how do you go about finding these users of music ideas? Where are these users of music ideas, and how are you going to go about getting business from them? Are they going to come to you? Are you going to go to them? What do you do? So let's see. You have to get a publisher. Sometimes you get a publisher who's going to assist you to get these users of your music ideas. And sometimes the users of the music ideas, they just approach you directly, especially if you don't have a publisher, they'll just come to you. If they know who your publisher is, they'll go to your publisher. If you don't have a publisher, and you are new in the industry, you don't know a whole lot of things about the industry, get help from a publisher, because a publisher will make sure that your interests are protected and you benefit from your copyright as well. So what does the publisher do? So what does the publisher do? The function of the publisher is to pitch to users, is to take your idea is to take your idea and pitch it to the users of your music ideas. Basically introduce your music idea to the users of your music ideas. And in some of the previous slides, I've explained the different types of users of music ideas. So your publisher needs to go to them directly. If the users are not approaching you through the publisher needs to take your ideas and pitch them to the users of your music ideas. That's the only way you can make money. That's the only way you can be known by the industry. And your publisher will then have to issue licenses. Your publisher will then have to issue licenses to the users of your music ideas and negotiate with them on your behalf. You don't have to be involved in the negotiations, and if you're expected to be in the music, to be involved in the negotiations, then you will be involved in the negotiations. But in most cases, you don't have to be involved because the publisher will represent your interest to the best of his or her abilities, because it's his job anyway. So he will come back to you and tell you how much money you've made, how they've used, what he has done, to whom he has issued your licenses about your music. So now on the side here, we have a picture of a loudspeaker, and on top of that loudspeaker, we have a composer. A composer is the one who generates music, creates music ideas. These will be your melodies. These will be your lyrics. These will be your arrangements and accompaniment. And at the back of that loudspeaker, you have on top of the stairs, you have a publisher who's then speaking to a number of people in front of that loudspeaker. So these people represent the different users of your music, people who would want to use your music. Now, so on this slide, we're going to explain what type of monies or income are you going to get. So on this slide, we're going to look at what type of monies, how will I get paid for licensing my music business, for licensing my music ideas to the different users. So you're going to get royalties. You're also going to get fees. And sometimes you can get wages. So let's go through this. So let's see the different areas where you can get royalties. Now, the users who are likely to give you royalties, these would come from record companies, these would come from radio stations if they're playing your music to the public, TV stations, ad-supported streaming services like YouTube. This is where you're going to get royalties. Printing companies, you're going to get royalties. Events companies, venues, jukebox owners, and DJs. This is the only way through which you can get royalties, and these are periodic. In other words, they don't come all the time or on a regular basis. So you can get royalties maybe after 6 months, and sometimes after 4 months, and sometimes after a year. So it takes a long time to get royalties because your music has to be used in public first before you can get royalties. And the organization that is tasked with collecting royalties for when your music is used in public, it has to collect it from all of these different users of your music idea and make sure that the money that they pay you is the right money that will pay you. And then and also you can get fees. You can get fees, and these normally come from synchronization. If you have to, your music has to be synchronized with movies, with series, documentaries, adverts, video games. And sometimes record companies, they can pay you a once-off fee. In other words, they can buy your idea from you so that you don't benefit from it in future. So they can ask you to say, well, you've written a nice song. We love the melody, we love the lyrics, or we love the arrangement, we love the beat. As it is the case recently in the music industry, we love the beat. Can you sell it to us? How much money do you want? So In that case, you can sell it to the record company, but you're not going to expect to get royalties because you won't get royalties. It means now the new owners of your idea, those who have copyright for your idea, are the record companies. You will always be acknowledged as the composer, but you do not own copyright. So you won't have the right anymore to license your music to anyone else. So they'll have to go to the record company because they will be the new owners. And sometimes publishing companies as well. The publishing company can come to you and say, look, you know what I mean? We know you're a composer. Can you sell your music to us? You know, so that we can own it, how much money you want. And artists as well, they can do that as well. So these are all the different ways through which you can get your once-off fees for your music, which means that you're transferring ownership of your music ideas permanently. Now, another way to make money is from getting wages. Now, how do you get wages? Basically, that is if you are employed. That is if you are employed for an organization that you will be composing for, any organization. It can be a film production company, you know, they want an in-house composer, you know, it can be a record company as well. They want an in-house composer. So in this case, you'll be getting wages and everything that you will be composing will be owned by your employer. You're not going to get royalties because you are getting paid. It's an ordinary form of employment. So you're not going to get royalties. You're gonna get your salary or your wages, whatever you get on a monthly basis, and the music belongs to whoever employed you. When you leave that particular company, you don't go with the music because the music is not owned by you. So these are all the different types of monies that you can get from the music industry if you are a composer. Now, what royalties will I get? What royalties are you likely to get? You can get performance royalties and you can get mechanical royalties. Now, what are performance royalties? Performance royalties is the money that you get when your music is performed in public. When your music is performed in public. And these are the different ways where your music can be performed in public, with radio stations, TV stations, and supported streaming services, live performance events, venues, social media, jukeboxes, and music as well. So these royalties are collected by SAMRO. This is the only organization that is tasked with collecting performance royalties, and they collect from all these different users of your music ideas. Then on this side, you have mechanical royalties. Mechanical royalties, you get paid mechanical royalties by Capacitor. Capacitor is an organization that collects these royalties from most of the time record companies. It is mostly from record companies. When your music is downloaded or physical sales are sold, you know, they collect from Capacitor will collect from record companies. Or if your music is used by subscription-based streaming services where you have to pay a monthly fee in order to access the music from that particular streaming service. So all these different users of your music, like record companies and these streaming services, if you deal with them directly, then they will pay your mechanical royalties to Capacitor, and then you get your royalties from Capacitor. Now you have to register with these organizations. We call them collective management organizations because they collect your royalties. They collect royalties for a group of composers in the music industry, but different types of royalties. We also have other organizations as well, such as SAMPRA. SAMPRA collect a different set of royalties altogether, and this is for it represents the musicians who are performing in studio, whose performance is broadcast to the public. So SAMPRA will collect those royalties on their behalf. Now let's look at the different types of composers that we have in the music industry. You have melodists, you have lyricists, you have songwriters, you have arrangers, you have orchestrators, And you also have beat makers. Now, let's explain them individually. A melodist is a composer who writes melodies. You know, they don't have to write lyrics. Maybe they don't want to write lyrics. They just want to write melodies. And the melody that comes to mind right now to explain what that means will be the most popular song in the world, the Happy Birthday song. So it goes like this: dun 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 dun. That is the melody basically. Now you can put lyrics to that particular melody. So now if you are a lyricist, your job is to write words, basic words. And sometimes you can write lyrics to a melody, and you write lyrics to a flow in the case of rappers. So the lyrics to that famous song will be Happy Birthday to You. You are a composer. If you just write lyrics specifically for music or a particular flow, then you are a composer. And for each of all these things, you get paid for them. Now you have a songwriter. Songwriter is a special songwriting is one of the special careers, especially in the modern music industry, in the popular music industry. Songwriters, their job is to write melodies and lyrics at the same time. Now you have arrangers. Arrangers are the people who are providing accompaniment to music. Now arrangers, they write for small ensembles, write for like your jazz ensemble, they will write for the gospel ensemble, they will write for small ensembles, especially in the popular music industry. And then you have orchestrators. Orchestrators, they write accompaniment for big orchestras that play classical music in most cases. And then again, you have beat makers. Beat making is very important because it's what drives the current popular music industry right now. So you have beat makers. Now, beat makers, what they do, it's two things that they do. They provide the accompaniment, but then at the same time, they are making a record while they are creating the accompaniment. Now, the interesting thing about beat makers is that every time when they do business with whoever wants to do business with them, there is an aspect that they are leaving out in order to represent their ideas, because there's two ideas involved. It's a sound recording, but at the same time, in that sound recording, there's an accompaniment involved in there. So now when they do business, they leave out the fact that they are the owners of the sound recording. So if they have to sell their beat, the only thing that they are representing in most cases, which is what I've seen, is the music that is contained in that particular sound recording. So now they should be benefiting more from the sound recording, basically. Yes, we have come to a section where it's the Q&A section right now, and I don't know if we have anyone who wants to ask a question about everything that we've discussed so far, or even anything that we didn't get to cover today. So this is the Q&A session, and I see we have people who've joined us for this. We have Vusi there, we have Pilile. I don't know if we don't have questions. If we don't have questions, then we'll just proceed. Yes, let's proceed. Yes, we are very close to wrapping up now. So these are the resources that I've prepared. You have, if you want more information about what Sambro does, you can go to their website, and that is sambro.org.za or Capacitor. These are the most important organizations in the music industry because they collect royalties for composers. Sambro, Capacitor.co.za. You also have Sampra. Sampra, well, doesn't collect for composers. It collects for musicians who perform on recordings, and those recordings get played on in public, on radio and on TV, and you get your royalties there. And then there's a beautiful website in South Africa that's created by one of the founders of the Kiffness. Kiffness is a group, it's an electronic act based in Cape Town. So sometimes they write beautiful articles, you know, about the music industry, how to get started in the game, and who are the most relevant organizations in the music industry about particular issues. And then there's a publishing masterclass. It's a beautiful video on YouTube. It's put together. It's like a webinar, recorded webinar. So it's put together by Paradise Worldwide. Paradise Worldwide is it's one of the big companies in Germany, but they are also in South Africa here in Sentin. So they've got a beautiful video. It's called Publishing Masterclass. So if you want to learn a lot about publishing, what goes into publishing, you can access that on YouTube through their YouTube channel. And again, there's a book that I'd like everybody to check. It's written by a South African, Jonathan Shaw. So it explains everything about the South African music business. And we've come
Dave?
to, yes.
We've got, it's Cam here. We've got a question from Pilile. She asks,
Yes.
how do I get my music registered? And then after that, maybe we could take a question from Vusi, who's raised his hand. So the first question, how do I get my music registered?
Oh, yes. Well, to get your music registered, if you want to register your music with Sambro, then you can do that online. You just access the portal, you create your login details on the Sambro portal, and you can get your music registered. But then registration alone, we know it's not really going to give you copyright or protection whatsoever, because you still need to put your music in a tangible form. That is to record it or to write it down on a piece of paper, you know, so that it can exist. That's the only way you can get protection. That's what's going to give you copyright, because when you are registering with Sambro, basically they don't want too many details. All that they want is the name of the song and who is the composer or who are your co-composers, and it ends there. Now you can always have an idea in the mind, you know what I mean, and go to Sambro and register it. You're not going to get protection, because the only way to get protection is if your music has been recorded or you wrote it down on a piece of paper, you know, on a stave, in a score. So I hope that answers the question.
That's great, Dave.
From Pilile. I don't know, maybe perhaps she can clarify. She can clarify for us as to what does she mean when she says to get the music registered. Yeah, so and also with Capacitor, it's the same as well. Yes, Cameron.
Sure. Yeah, Pilile, you are welcome to ask these questions to David now. The next question I have from her is, if I want to take my idea and put it in a tangible form, do I need to record my music at a recording studio and it gets released, or can I use a device at home? A very interesting question. And then Vusi will come to you.
Yes, thanks, Cameron. That's a brilliant question. You don't have to go into a studio. You can record it. You can use your cell phone to record it, and it exists. It's an idea. You know, the beautiful thing about these technological devices, such as cell phones, is that as soon as you record it, then it gives you the date when it was recorded, and then your music idea, it's now tangible and it's copyrightable, and no one can use it. You don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to take it anywhere else. You don't have to put it on for the fact that it exists, and make sure that it does not disappear. Don't delete it from your cell phone. Don't delete it anywhere else. And if you want to send it to your email address, which is highly recommended, it's okay. You can do that. But for the mere fact that it exists now in a tangible form, you have copyright. And if somebody else wants to use the same idea in future and they claim it's theirs, they can't, because I mean, you have the records to prove that you are the first person to come up with that particular idea. It must not only exist in your mind. Yes, so your cell phone is sufficient. If you have a cell phone, it's fine, just record your music idea, then you have copyright protection. Thanks, Pilile, for the question. That's a nice question.
Great. Vusi, would you like to ask your question online, or you can do that, or I can ask for you. Vusi was asking, by adding only a verse in a record, does that make me a beneficiary in royalty earnings?
Yes. Yes. So if you add a verse, if you add one note, if you add, one word, in a composition, or, you own, in fact, you own that composition now, so if you're contributing 5% to the composition, and the other person contributes 95% to the composition, the person who owns 95% of the composition cannot do anything with that composition, such as selling it without getting authorization from you to do that, because now you've created an idea and now you've meshed your idea with somebody else's ideas. Now it becomes one idea, but it's owned by two people. So you are going to get ownership of the entire song. The only thing that can be different, basically, it's the percentage when it comes to earnings. But now you also own the entire composition, which means no one can do anything with that composition without getting authorization from the other person. So you're going to get royalties in that case, even if it's just one note, even if your idea in a 5-minute song, it plays for about 1 second, 1 second, and the other person's ideas, obviously they play for about, 5 minutes or so. For that alone, you're going to get royalties.
Great, Dave.
Yes.
Another 2 questions for you from Pumkani, who's on Facebook.
Yes.
The first one, does Capacitor have a mandate or authority to audit the downloads?
Does Capacitor have the mandate to audit the downloads? Oh,
yeah,
that's a
fantastic
yes.
question about, keeping track of the downloads of streams and downloads of songs and things.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question. Look, Capacitor does not have any working relationship with a download site or with download services such as iTunes. It does not have any working relationship. The organizations that have a relationship with download sites are record companies. So it will all depend on the nature of the contract between record companies and the download sites to audit, how many times your song was downloaded. So Capacitor does not have that mandate. To answer your question, Sive, thank you very much for joining on Facebook. And I can't see how many people have joined on Facebook, but I know there's many people who have joined us there on Facebook. So, but then Capacitor does not have the mandate whatsoever, but record companies must have the mandate to audit as to how many times the music or the download, a particular track or sound recording has been downloaded, basically. So if you are a composer and you have licensed your music to the record company, perhaps the artist or the composer needs to negotiate for that, with the record company, to ask the record company to actually audit the details that are reported by download services. But Capacitor does not have that mandate whatsoever, because Capacitor only collects royalties. It's just a collecting company. That's what they do. They collect royalties on your behalf. And even Capacitor, it does not have the mandate to audit the information that comes from the money and the information that comes from record companies, because Capacitor it just collects from record companies. But you, the composer, and sometimes the artist, because artists can be composers. What you have done when you are registering with Capacitor, it means that you're actually giving them the mandate to collect your royalties on your behalf from Capacitor. But when you are doing a contract with a record company to use your music in their records, then that is something you should be negotiating for. And another thing that you should, yes,
sorry, Dave.
yes, Cameron.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, there must be, I'm not sure how it works, but when you license a streaming site or whatever it may be to use your music, there would definitely be, an agreement between them, you or Capacitor or Samro, to use that music, and that I think would give you the mandate, to audit how many times it's been downloaded. I mean, I think it's all there, on the system already. If that's how I understand the question.
But Capacitor is just a collecting organization.
Right.
They only collect royalties. So, but an artist or a composer, then in a clause of the contract, when they are licensing the music to a record company, then they can have the audit clause,
right,
basically, to audit whether the money that the artist is getting from the composer is getting from the record company for the use of the composer's music is actually the accurate amount of money. Yes, basically, does it correspond? Does the money correspond with the number of times in which your record has been downloaded from these download sites? Yes.
A follow-up from.
Yes.
Sorry, Dave. Go for it, and then I'm going to come in again.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. You can go.
A follow-up from Kumkani. How do you track how many times your song has been downloaded? Do these get to be audited? Okay, so that's very much related, and maybe we've covered that already. He also wrote here again on Facebook, who tracks how many times and who plays your music in countries outside of South Africa? Who collects the royalty? Well, there's a lot of questions here. So let's take it one by one at it. I think we've answered the first two. So who tracks how many times and who plays the music in countries outside of South Africa? Who are the agencies that do that?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. So you are a composer. You affiliate with a publisher. Now your music gets used in other countries. When your music gets used in other countries, you'll have to find a publisher. Now you don't have to go to that particular country to look for a publisher. Your publisher has to find a publisher in that country to represent your interest in that particular country. And you only do that when your music gets used in that particular country. Now, the publisher in that country, because you are based in South Africa and your publisher is also based in South Africa. Now, the publisher in, let's say, France, because I know Jerusalem by Master KG is big in France. Now, let's say France. So you have to, your publisher has to find a sub-publisher in France to represent your interest in that country, your publisher's interest, but mostly your interest in that particular country in France. Now, your publisher in France, who we shall call your sub-publisher. Now, we call them a sub-publisher because you don't have a direct contract with them. You only have a contract with your publisher to represent your interest everywhere else. And your publisher goes to France to find a sub-publisher. Now, your sub-publisher in France will collect all your royalties. Now, there must be an organization. In fact, there is an organization in France. I don't know the name of it though. There is an organization in France that does the same job that Capacitor does in that country. Now, your sub-publisher in France will then go to Capacitor in that country, that is France. Let's call it Capacitor as well. And then let's call another one Sample. But these are collecting organizations based in France. Now your publisher will then, in France, will then go to all these organizations to say, look, my music, the music belonging to Sive Kumkani from South Africa, it's used in radio stations here in France, and I'd like for you to be aware of that. And I'm going to register that particular composition on behalf of a composer based in South Africa. And when you collect those royalties, I'm here to make you aware that I'm the one who's representing that composer in South Africa, and all royalties, you bring them to me. Now, those royalties will be sent to you through your publisher here in South Africa. And again, there must be another organization as well that does the same job, such as Capacitor in that particular country, France, basically. Now, they will collect mechanical royalties on your behalf. They collect royalties from, if there's a record company in that country that you've licensed to represent that uses your music in that country, that record company will have to pay all your mechanical royalties to a Capacitor in France. And then the Capacitor in France will then send your royalties to your sub-publisher who is based in France. Your sub-publisher who's based in France will send your royalties to your South African publisher, and the South African publisher will give you a share of your royalties. So in other words, you are going to be represented by your sub-publisher in all these different countries where your music is going to be used. And he is the person who must make sure that you get royalties in that particular country. There was another question, right?
Yeah, well, it's been answered. It was actually a follow-up, and I didn't realize that. Does SAMRO's scope of mandate extend beyond the South African borders? You've made that clear already. And Ignacio, he just posted there that the sister organization of SAMRO in France is SEICEM. Some people say SEICEM. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation, but both of them are member of CSAC.
Yes.
And there's a link there. Thanks, Ignacio.
Thanks, Ignacio. Do we have any questions in the chat?
I think we have answered all the questions. I'm trying to keep track. And on Facebook, let's see. No more on Facebook. I was going to ask you, I don't know if you saw this question earlier, but when did you last see a jukebox, Dave? And I mean, it must be still, a good way of making money.
Yes.
I think maybe we should Google jukebox in the modern era.
Yes, you'll get lots of places that have jukeboxes. You know what I mean? It's especially in the city center, in the CBD, and in some places. Well, I don't go to these places anymore because I'm growing older, Cameron. You know
and
what
COVID
I mean?
maybe is the problem too.
And maybe COVID is the problem as well. But there are some places that are still using jukeboxes. Basically.
The one that I remember, the only one that I've seen, that still exists and that people use is in the Jolly Roger in Parkhurst. I have been there on a number of occasions and found people, putting money in the jukebox.
Yes. Is it a pub? Is it a restaurant?
Yes, it's a very well-known pub in Parkhurst. Just one of those typical pubs. The music, though, it's not necessarily modernized. It doesn't represent modern music. It's classics,
I see.
But I suppose you don't expect that from a pub.
Yeah, it depends which places you go to. I know there's a place I used to frequent in Braamfontein. They used to have, and it's called a coffee. Well, it's a coffee shop, but they sell, certain types of beverages there.
I remember
they sell alcohol. They sell alcohol. You know the place?
I'm sure. Yes, it must be.
Yes. So it's next to the Liberty Life building there.
That's right.
in Braamfontein. It's a coffee. It's called a coffee shop because it used to be a coffee shop, I think 15 years ago. But then the new owners never cared to change the name of the
Yeah.
of the institution. So in that place, there's a jukebox. You know what I mean? Yes. So if there's patrons during the day, you know what I mean. Most of the time, during weekdays, you know, they will play the music through the jukebox. But on weekends, such as on Friday night, Saturday night, and sometimes Sunday night, they will get a DJ to come and play the music.
We got a comment here just saying, thank you, brilliant session, looking forward to more. And on that note, there will be more of these.
Yes.
We posted some info on the Facebook page, but we'll be hosting these every Thursday, as you said at the beginning, Dave, and we'll be having sessions on. Well, one will be on fundraising, which is very much applicable to you know, being in the music world, and not just fundraising for a non-profit or a non-profit company, but fundraising for your own projects. One can learn a lot in that sense. That's Helen Foslu, a fundraiser, will be giving us that. And then we'll have some more sort of discussions around, you know, like music management, project management, aspects of you know, building a music career in music, a modern musician. So please all come back to us for the rest of August, same time, same place, and but we will be issuing a new Zoom link. I was made to think of this wonderful. I'm just looking here to see if I can share. Dave, maybe you can stop sharing.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm done. What you see there is my email address if you want to
yes,
contact
your
me.
email address is there. Let's leave it there.
Yes, and then, okay. What did you want to share, Cam?
I found this wonderful.
Well, I can stop sharing. I can stop sharing.
And we can post your email address as well into the chat.
Yes.
I found a wonderful sort of article about how many streams you need to buy a sandwich or a game or a new phone or a cup of coffee.
Yes.
And there's a wonderful website called it's www.guitartricks.com calculator. There's a song streaming calculator, and it'll tell you, obviously in dollars, exactly how many streams you'd need for whatever X. So, you know, their example here is an Iron Man suit. And I can't even read this number because it's so long. So maybe that's not a good example. But 80 billion here to buy a house in the United States. Anyway, I just thought that was funny.
What's that 80 billion for? Is that the streams? 80 billion streams?
80, it looks like 80 billion to me. I put myself in a spot here because I'm clearly struggling to read these numbers. All I know is there's lots of zeros.
Yes.
But it's a very interesting thing. You know, you can take your everyday items and see just how many streams you would need to purchase that, or you know, from a drink to a ticket to a concert, to a bowl of noodles or a cup of coffee. So I'm going to post that link in the chat. And then maybe what you can do, Dave, is just type your email address for us into the chat as well.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, I'm typing it now. Yes.
There we go. We've got the email address there. And yeah, I think maybe that's where we are going to call it.
Okay.
But thank you, David, for a fantastic presentation.
Thanks. Thank you
It must
very
be
much.
strange, you know, not necessarily having someone on the other side to talk to or look at, you know, you're not giving an in-person presentation. So that's why I thought, well, it's nice to switch on the camera every now and then to show, you know, that there actually is a person out there.
Yes.
But we've had a lot of visitors, which has been great.
Thank you very much. That's nice.
Really, really, really nice session. And we'll see you all next week, 5 p.m. for another one of these. Different angles, different discussions.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pilile.